Hello, welcome to this video. Glad you're watching, if you're watching, because this is a great topic today. I'm actually very interested in this because I feel like I've got things to learn. So I'm excited to see what I learn. I've got Dr. Julie Nash with me, fellow play therapist and mental health professional and author and trainer and many things, who's going to talk with us about our topic. Welcome, Julie. Thanks for coming on
Thanks
here
for
and
having
doing
me.
this. Yeah. So we're talking about nature-based play therapy. And I guess I'm saying that correctly, right?
hmm
Nature-based play therapy is how you would word it, this sort of approach to play therapy or theory. You'll let us know which it is or what it is. But I think this is super interesting. I think because in my mind, I picture, nature and being in nature, nature being a part of it. And that's always been a great regulating tool for me.
Mhm.
So I'm really excited to talk about this. So just to start out with, probably describing and explaining what is nature-based play therapy.
Sure. So I think one of the best features of it is that nature-based play therapy can really be whatever you want it to be or whatever your clients need it to be. As you mentioned, the theory versus model question, right? And that's a fantastic question for this, is that nature-based play therapy as such is a model. So it's not a theory. And the big difference there is that nature-based play therapy can be a tool that you utilize in any session or as your entire treatment plan. You can utilize nature and ways to include that in your treatment. Not a theory because we're not following a specific theoretical model. The assumption is that you, as the play therapist, do follow one. And I always encourage people to figure out which theory they most subscribe
Totally.
to. But making sure that that's at your core, you can then utilize nature in whatever way makes the most sense for the client that you're working with and the situation that you're in. So it's not just, oh, let's go hang out at the beach today and include nature that way,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
As much as I'd love that, that's not really a full out option all the time. Um, but anything that gets us and our clients out in nature or brings nature in. So there's a lot of ways too to integrate nature into an office setting if you're not in a space where you can get outside easily and things like that.
That's great. I just thought of two more questions as you were
Sure.
sharing. One being, I love the idea of using it as it fits and makes sense
Mhm.
because it feels like it's kind of like thinking about who your client is, and
Mhm.
again, making therapy meaningful to them,
Right.
which gets into some ideas of prescriptive play therapy and integrative play therapy, which I'm a big believer in the AutPlay framework.
Right.
But is there a way that you would go about trying to understand that this would be helpful for your client?
Absolutely. So I also am a prescriptive play therapist and really grew up in my play therapy journey through the therapeutic powers of play and understanding the importance of those and how we use them and why we use them and how we can activate and utilize the real therapeutic core of any of the play therapy work we do. So when I think about what does this client need right now, what would be the biggest benefit for them? Nature comes in a lot into that way of
Mhm.
thinking for me, and also from that therapeutic power side. So, what do I really want to help them to achieve here, and how are we going to activate that therapeutically through the combination of nature and play? So, that was one of the main reasons that I wrote the book that I did that came out just a
Yeah,
couple years ago about how do we integrate these powers and what are the powers we're starting to look for in the nature-based play itself too. Yeah,
that's nice. Yeah, just so you have that modality connection, right? Like you
exactly.
said, we're not just hanging out on the beach, which could be nice, but
Yeah.
but we really are doing therapy.
Yeah,
There's therapeutic constructs we're looking at, there's therapeutic powers of play, there's this whole
exactly.
thoughtfulness to the whole
Yeah.
clinical experience that's a part
Right.
of this as well. You
Right.
mentioned, and this reminds me of different offices I've been in where I had no access to go outside in any way.
hmm
And you mentioned the idea of bringing the nature in. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Absolutely. And same thing with my journey in play therapy and in psychology in general, right? Is that I started my internship and residency was at a hospital setting. So I was doing inpatient work and at a locked therapeutic day school. And no, you're not allowed to take them outside. And that's
Yeah,
definitely not an option.
yeah.
But looking at how can we bring that outdoor world in because it is so vital for so many aspects of development. Regular and non-clinical development, as well as clinical supports and helping therapeutically. So ways that we bring it in naturally, if you look around your play space now, I'm sure you could identify 5 to 10 nature-based items instantly, right? You've got a sand tray most likely. So
Right.
sand is right there, and that's a huge modality. And it's really interesting to me because a lot of times people will talk about using sand in therapy and say there's just something about it that people are drawn to. Well, that's the nature side too, in my opinion.
Sure.
The biophilia hypothesis talks about that we are innately drawn to nature-based stuff. So when we have sand in the office and people are naturally drawn to that, that fits right in with this whole model too. So bringing
Yeah.
sand in is one way. If I want to use miniatures or even arts and crafts supplies can be used from natural materials. So we can bring in oh, depending on the season, right? Acorns, sticks, twigs, all those
Yeah.
things, leaves, moss, all of that can be brought in and used to create things, used to create miniatures, used to create art, collaging. I love to do mandalas that are nature-based. So
Mhm.
either have the materials inside that people can choose from, or if we're able to just even do a walk around the building and collect materials that way
Yeah.
and then bring those back inside and be able to integrate it that way. Bringing water in is another great way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You really can do this, even if you're in
Yeah.
stores all the time,
Exactly.
and it can be beneficial. Obviously, there are people who may have access to go outside in various ways and
Hmm.
various types of nature, which is always nice.
Hmm.
Adds another element. You made me think of our sand tray room because we have so many neurodivergent kids. So we get
Yeah.
sensory issues, we get
Yep.
allergies, and we have
Yep.
a lot of tray alternatives to sand.
Yes.
And one of them, some of it's just been experimenting on my part.
I'm
One of
sure.
them, I just wanted a nature tray. And so I just got a bunch of leaves and little twigs and little acorns, and I crushed up all the leaves. And I just made this sand tray full of these items,
Hmm.
which was very popular, by the way. A lot of kids were really interested in it. But one tray I remember, and I still have this tray in our sand tray room, a client brought it to me and his mom. He really liked sand tray work, and he knew we had all these different types of trays for kids who had different preferences and needs. And
Yeah.
one day they show up and they've got, we have a sand tray for you. This is a sand tray we think you should have in your sand tray room. And it was grass seed. And they
Oh.
brought me all this grass seed in this tub. And the thing I remember most about it is opening the tub and just the overwhelming smell of grass. And it just like
Hmm.
took me right outside.
Hmm.
And so I still have that tray. It's full of grass seed, and kids love it. And they
Oh,
love the
that's
smell
wonderful.
of it along with the tactile experience of it. So
Yeah.
you made me think of those two when you were sharing. Yeah.
And that's an excellent point too, because nature-based work is all of the senses combined, right? We're not just using visual or tactile. We're using everything all together, and it's often without thought. So we don't have to think about how all these connections are coming up, but these types of memories pop up so frequently, and being able to talk about the good and the bad and the in between that just gets brought up as part of this is really, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
The connections that people are able to make in nature-based settings are, from what I've seen, so much deeper, and it gives another layer of understanding to everything that we do.
Sure. I love it. So if we were thinking about using nature-based play therapy, is it pretty open to just any client, type of
Mm.
client, any type of diagnosis? Is there anything where it would be used specifically for someone or something?
Um, so much of that depends on the client, right? And on the client's
Yeah,
needs. But you mentioned a couple of things that are really important earlier too. Allergies are honestly the first thing that I think about when I'm trying to decide if somebody could utilize this modality or not, because a lot of times kids present with lots of different types of allergies. So being aware
yeah,
of that is really important. And that might not change whether or not I use nature-based play therapy. It might change how I use it. So
yeah,
that's more of the deciding factor that I use is how am I going to introduce this? If I have a child who is deathly allergic to certain things outdoors, then that's going to change how I'm doing it. That's different if I have somebody who's very afraid of things that are outdoors, right? Because that gives me a great way to be able to work through some of that stuff with them. So allergies is really the biggest thing, sensitivities, stuff like that, that would make me question more of how to utilize it rather than if I should or shouldn't. But in terms of diagnostic categories, the vast majority of conditions really do benefit from time in nature and from nature-based play. Um, and it's again more about considerations. So if I've got kids who are prone to running, then I might need to adjust how I'm again doing the interventions and where I'm doing those interventions. But if I've got people who are dealing with depression or anxiety or um, any of those kinds of things, it's very, very helpful and can be really beneficial. Just needing to again keep in mind what their specific sensitivities are and how we can make it a comfortable session as
yeah,
well as something that's going to be therapeutically beneficial.
yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. So I'm sure someone's watching and are intrigued, like me, and like thinking, okay, this is something I want to learn more about. What are some good resources? You have a book,
I
and
do
we'll
have a
put up
book.
the link to that. You can tell
Okay,
us the title, and we'll make
thank you.
sure that that is up here in the video. But also, what are just different resources for information, training, etc.?
Yeah. So what I tend to offer is more of how to learn a little bit more about nature yourself as the therapist, because that's actually the biggest stumbling block that I see for therapists is I don't think I'm going to know enough to be able to do these things. And what kinds of interventions should I be doing? Because again, you're coming at this from your own theoretical understanding, so you should have a base in that. And now we're learning how to apply the different interventions and types of techniques and experiences and things like that. So yes, I do have my book, which is Nature-Based Play Therapy, a prescriptive approach to integrating the therapeutic powers of nature and play. And then I brought some other just resources to show to support the therapist in being able to utilize this. So one of my favorite things is these outdoor school books. They have a couple of different books in their series. I get no kickback or anything, so pick or choose if you use it. This one is animal watching. But what I like about this is that it's very user friendly and it's an interactive field guide. So there's a lot of information in here about different animals, different birds, different things, but then you also get to track where you saw them. So these are some great pages um, to really just learn information about
Mm.
different types of animals and track it yourself, which is pretty cool. So books like that have been really fun. And then I like the forest school method. There's a lot of really user-friendly things in here, and there's a lot of different books that Forest School has put out to use. But it talks about the different seasons and different things to do in different seasons. So
Okay,
some of my favorite activities come from those kinds of books. Oh, what else? I also make sure that I always have some nature guides in my
mm,
rooms. So the beginner's guides have been really great. These Stokes ones are nice because they're small and they're good for different sized hands as well. And really simple pictures and really simple information on here. So if I'm in an office and I have a nice window, I might keep some of these right next to the window so that when we have questions about what we're seeing, we're now engaging curiosity and we're
sure.
bringing the wonder and the sense of what could this be and learning about that ourselves right there as well. And my other favorite thing to have is a nature kit. So I keep these available so that we can just grab them if we're going outside. And I have just a couple simple things in here. I always have a little notebook so you can write things down and colored pencils, scissors, glue sticks, things like that so we can collect things. But then I also keep a little mini tape measure so that
Mm,
we can get observations about things.
absolutely.
And one of my favorite things ever is this little mini watercolor set. So this little
Nice.
bitty paintbrush just needs
Uh-huh.
basically the cap of the water bottle to get some water from, and you can take observations right out in the field, which is pretty cool. So those
Oh, I
kinds of
love
things.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's my favorite things to have around.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What about are there specific trainings on this? Do you do trainings on this topic?
Yep, I do. And it's basically what people are interested in terms of the trainings and availability for that.
Mhm.
So I do some on the importance of including nature in play and play through the seasons, and also from a supervisory standpoint, including nature and play therapy supervision. I have that one
Oh,
sometimes.
nice.
Yeah, it's fun.
Oh,
And then some others that I've seen, Timber Nook is based up in New England, and they have some training programs that I think sometimes are offered to the public as well. So those are some good ones. Um, Other than that, it's kind of just seeing what's available in your particular areas. There's a lot of different adventure therapies and wilderness therapies. Those are usually the search terms that I end up using too for trainings.
okay. That's great. Thanks for sharing that
Yeah.
information. So, if you want more information, here's some resources that Dr. Nash shared. Also, on you probably have a website so people could contact you
Yep.
if they wanted to inquire about trainings.
Yep. Exactly.
And then your book, can you hold it up so we can
Yes.
see it? I saw you reading it, so I'm like, I know you've got
It's
it
here.
there. There's what the cover looks
That's what
like,
it looks like.
and
Yep.
it's called
Nice
Nature-Based
and
Play
thin.
Therapy. So that's an easy find
Yes.
online.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Well, thanks for joining me and talking about this. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate this opportunity very much.
Yes. And so thanks for watching the video. You can always like it and subscribe to the AutPlay channel and come back and watch more videos. Take care.